Hi guys, my name's Jenks, and in this video I'm going to be taking you through the process of a painting I did. It's about 10 hours worth, condensed into 18 minutes. It's one of two kind of methods I use of painting. One of doing nice clean line art and colouring in after that, and this one of working out an idea in black and white first. So yeah, let's get to it. So starting with a canvas, not white, just off-white, a kind of yellowy browny kind of colour, just to get rid of the starkness of a white page. Starting out with a few thumbnails. I have no idea where I was going with this, I just knew I wanted to do a new beast, probably something creepy, demon kind of thing. So just kind of get some shapes down, some weird random shapes. Got something and thought, hey, some big Space Marine evil doing something kind of nasty to someone, get it in right nice and close, try sort of clipping the frame in there. So start out getting a bit rough, kind of rough idea of shapes and lighting. Just being really loose, being small, don't zoom in, get too carried away with details and that. Once you got your shape, your kind of general composition, bring it up and start working a bit more. Again, keep loose, don't worry about details. You see I'm still zoomed out, I'm not zooming in on any details yet, keep it really loose and rough, just get those shapes down, get some illusions to detail that we can go into later, and just kind of keep going with the lighting in that. Make some adjustments to some of the shapes and things. The shoulder pad there wasn't working out, so change the angle of it. Keep adding details and things. Again, still just not going in very, very deep, very zoomed in. And just, yeah, work with your lighting. Just keep pushing the lighting, keep pushing some ideas, neatening, carving out shapes, letting just those like the random brush shapes, kind of a textured brush, let that do the work for you in creating illusions to detail. Let it make some weird shapes, some weird textures and things like that, so that later on you can go in and you can add those details yourself when you zoomed in. So here I am. I kind of got my shapes, got my main kind of composition is there, the main shapes, the pose. So it's just a case of tidying up, going in, getting some neater lines, drawing a few bits in with a sharper line, then kind of painting over again and blending stuff in again. Keep sort of going back and forth between adding a little bit of sharp detail and then blending it and pushing some big textures down. You'll notice I've got a fair few layers going on. I've got 4 layers going on, but there's no order. There's no, for this style, for this way of working, there's no kind of, this layer is the head, this layer is the yellow colors, this is whatever. It's create a layer, start working on it, get to a certain point, work to a certain point, and then create a new layer to do some more changes. Maybe you want to make some great big change, so start it on a new layer, because if you mess it up you can just turn off the layer, delete it, whatever, erase it, and then at some point I collapse everything down and start again, new layer, keep going, add detail, add new things, always just kind of a new layer for a while, collapse it down, new layer, make a couple of saves so that if I really have an issue, go back to an older save, pull in some of those details before I threw something onto it and collapse it down. But not much, generally not too much of an issue with that. So yeah, it's a lot tighter now. Still kind of adding details, still trying to keep it fairly loose, not going too zoomed in with some of the details, because I don't want to get too carried away, because I know there's still probably going to be the odd little bit that I'll need to change around. having a load of problems with that guy's arm, his hand. It was just really a pain in the ass for that. So I kind of go into it, do a little bit on it, realize it's not working, and go somewhere else. Which is another thing you'll notice about how I work. I'm not going into one area and getting it to a certain level. I'm just kind of zipping about all over the place. Do a little bit here, a little bit there. Get this bit, a little bit more detail. Realize that maybe that means some light should bounce over here, so go to that bit. Throwing some detail into something, realize it's thrown off the balance of the detail elsewhere, so go do some extra detail there, some extra stuff to throw in, points of interest to draw the eye around the piece. Still working on just getting in, adding some lighting, refining some of the details. Still, never going too deep, too zoomed in. I don't know why I keep saying deep. I've given up on that guy's head. It's so at this stage, create a new layer with color. This is the difference in the two different methods that I end up painting. This way, do it all black and white, get your lighting to a pretty good idea, get it to sort of where you're pretty confident with that. That's how it's going to end up with your main source of light and maybe a bit of backlight and how things are going to kind of bounce around. Go to a color layer and throw in your colors. It's difficult because you end up potentially going way too oversaturated with some of your colors or undersaturated and going too grey. The trade-off on that is I quite like to just kind of play around messily in black and white and sculpt, if you like, with the paint to sculpt the shapes and the lighting and that. So you got to kind of decide what's best for you, what's best for the project as well. I throw in a couple of layers of overlay or multiply or something to push some of the lighting to get some of the lighting really bright or darker, or push some colors into a bit more saturation or a bit less, and then go in, paint in a little bit more if some of the areas have gone a bit too saturated, dull them down a bit with a normal layered paint, and just keep going back and forth, add a little bit of another overlay layer working on there, and then another normal layer. I've got a load of layers going right now, so I'm probably gonna, I think at this point I'd probably collapse them again. Man, here's another point that I just working pretty much on essentially one layer. It's not one layer, but I haven't, you can see with the background, the background's actually on top of the characters, because part of it's being a bit lazy, part of it is just sort of painting a bit more traditionally and not wanting to be able to mess around with too many layers. And also I just being a bit lazy with not wanting to name layers and move them around and all that kind of stuff. It just gets frustrating sometimes. So yeah, this guy's head, it took a lot. There's a few pauses you'll notice. I've paused a few times where there's nothing going on. I mean, this is so much sped up, but there's a few times I had to pause, look for reference, get some reference that looked good, look in the mirror. Faces are not easy. Anyone will tell you, faces are really hard. So this is going back and forth and doing a little bit on this face, then going, oh, it's too hard, doing a little bit else, somewhere else, doing the different shapes, different forms, and no, it's coming on pretty good there. At that point, I'm pretty happy with it. Get some of the lighting back into his face, getting some of the colours a bit better. a few details, a few bits of gore and things. But yeah, as you can see, like I said earlier, I'm just skipping around from the Space Marine's face to this bit of skin on his shoulder to a little bit on his shoulder pad, and then back and forth all over the place, just kind of giving everything the sort of same layer of detail at the same time, and just working it up just how I feel, what things jump out at me at that time. Yeah, those claws were bugger to paint as well. You notice there's a lot of going back and painting over different parts of the metal, adding a little bit of different colour here, there. Metal's a difficult thing to paint, and sometimes I feel like I nail it, sometimes it looks awful, and this is one of those times where it's kind of a little bit in between. There's parts that I really liked, other parts I just did not like at all, and I just had to keep going back and changing some of the reflections that happen. That little speaker bit on his shoulder pad, I realised there's just not enough going on in that area. There's not enough going on, and there's not enough that draws your eye around the piece. You've always got to think about focus points. What will make the viewer's eye look around the piece and stay interested and not direct their eye out of the piece. You don't want some diagonal lines that all zip off up into one corner and that's it, because you'll end up with your viewer just kind of getting lost and always concentrating on that top corner and wondering what's going on there. So you want some shapes that move around the piece. Like, for example, in this, you've got the Chaos Marine's arm that comes down with his claw. At that point, it sort of curves around into the guy's face, up to the Marine's chest, and the Marine's face again, and then you kind of come round to the shoulder pad, and that's why at the shoulder pad I was not quite sure what is going on. I needed some extra detail that sort of just, added a little bit more interest, a little bit more movement to the piece. Those green gems, that's another one of sort of colour composition, I guess you'd call it. I got the sort of main colours of the pink and the orange of the metal, the kind of brassy goldy colour, but it's all fairly similar. You just want a few little accent pieces to pop out. So that's where the idea for those gems came from, just to add a little bit of a pop colour that just stands out. Not too much. You don't want them too big, because otherwise they end up being too much of a focus, and it ends up looking a bit too bright and vibrant and colourful, and you've used too many colours. So just a few. When you're looking at your colour wheel, you've got you generally sort of go your main kind of two colours. This is essentially kind of a three colour. You got your pink, and then opposite, sort of the greeny of those little gems, and next to that the orange of the gold. These shrunken heads is what I was talking about with moving around the piece. Drawing the viewer's eye, that diagonal just helps to draw the viewer's eye background once they hit the shoulder pad. It comes round back onto the arm, instead of just kind of floating around there with not much to look at. You've got a little bit there, it brings you back down to the arm and around the piece again. Now originally I was going to these tentacles coming out of his mouth, they were going to be coming all the way down to the guy in his arms, and they were going to be going into his mouth and being all kinds of horrible, violating kind of stuff, and it was just kind of a bit too much. It would have been too much focus, so I just wanted to leave it at that, just these horrible little tentacles. Maybe he's going to do that, maybe he's going to do some other stuff. And yeah, so I just left it at that. So here I had such a hard time with hands earlier. Hands are difficult. Hands, faces, difficult things to do. So I went in front of a mirror and took a load of photos of my own hand. Photo reference, you can't beat. Generally, you can't beat your own photo reference because you can get exactly the pose you want, the lighting you want, everything like that. So I took a couple. I took about 5 or 6 and brought them in. 2 of them looked the best, so you see I've actually painted up to a reasonable amount, 2 different hand positions. And I kept going back between them. I wasn't sure what I wanted, whether it was a kind of surprised, flailing kind of look, or of this one right now, or the other one, which is kind of a bit more of a agony, curling the fingers sort of look, and maybe grasping for things. It was difficult. I really didn't know which I wanted to do. So yeah, I just went with both. I ended up asking my girlfriend what she thought was best, which is often a great idea. You need to get some feedback. Working in an echo chamber, just your own thoughts isn't always very constructive. You need to get some outside eyes, some fresh eyes to look at your work. So I asked her, we flicked back between the 2. She had the same, it's at this point I think, I was painting that with her saying, oh, what can I do? Can I make another hand here? And how does that work? So, I mean, she was fairly kind of like me, didn't really know which one to go for, and we sort of thought this one was the best, as it looked like he was kind of flailing and just in dismay just at the stuff that's about to happen to him. So again, another photo of my hand with some lighting and lots of me struggling then to try and get the lighting to match up with what's going on in the scene. So yeah, you'll see me going back and forth repainting these hands, and honestly I could have done a much better job of them. And I could have taken some better reference shots, some better lit ones, but I'm fairly happy with how they turned out. They work. So yeah. At this point, I use the lasso tool just to grab a few shapes and make a couple of more sharp lines with on those claws. A couple of little adjustments. His eyes just felt a bit too big, a bit too high up, so just move them down a little bit. A couple of just little last minute adjustments, and little details, finishing things off, adding a little bit of lighting and gritty bits. And yeah, then finally just working on the background a little bit. Getting just making sure that the character stands out from the background. It was a little bit too pink, a little bit too grey before, and then working on just a couple of little details, a couple of little rim lights there, and that's it, we're finished. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I could have done a bit better with a few bits of this. Some of the metal could have been a bit better lit up. The guy at the bottom that's being tortured, his hands and his face could have been a little bit better, but generally I'm pretty happy. You can't get everything correct all the time. You can't be a perfectionist all the time. You just gotta acknowledge your mistakes, get some feedback from other people if you need it, and carry on to the next one. So that's it for now. The next video, I'll do my other process, which is more working from line art, and that way I do use a few more layers and things, and work straight from color instead of black and white and a color layer. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and if you like this, give me a like, subscribe would be awesome. I would much appreciate it, and leave a comment. Any feedback below would be fantastic. I'd love to hear what you guys think of the piece, the video, any ideas for future pieces. Thanks for watching. My name's Jenks, and I'll catch you next time.